Yeah, you've probably seen what I've been doing. I'm just having a laugh with TikTok.
I got bullied for 6 years. Goofy teeth I had, but wait, nobody cared. All I thought I...
Yeah, there's jealous people out there and they can't hack seeing other people get attention, so they want to gain attention themselves.
How far would someone really go just to stay relevant online?
Getting all this hate about putting my mum on you know what. I'm just trying to secure her future. I'm trying to make her some money.
Would they fake their entire life for views? Lie to their own audience for sympathy?
Beavo.
And what's been going on?
Not too great, Aggie. I've recently become homeless.
Or deliberately humiliate themselves just to keep the algorithm watching?
If you want a good lifestyle and you don't let other people your missus, you're missing out and you're a slave.
Everything's fake on TikTok, man.
No,
everything's fake, bro. Everything's fake.
No,
I've seen a lot of nasty comments about me, and funny enough, I've had it throughout my school life.
On the TV, keeping it real. I've got skill, ain't gonna stop till I make a cup of milk.
The haters can hate, and the people that support what I do, I guess, I appreciate you.
Because for some creators, attention isn't a bonus anymore, it's survival. And when the views start slowing down, morals are usually the first thing to go. Today, we're breaking down the self-inflicted downfall of one of TikTok's most desperate viral figures. A creator who went from being laughed with to being laughed at. Someone who discovered that outrage is more powerful than talent, and kept pushing that strategy until it completely destroyed his reputation. This is the story of how chasing clout at any cost turned a viral moment into a public collapse. At first, nothing about Bivo's rise looked unusual. He was just another small TikTok creator grinding out videos, hoping one of them would finally take off. Back in late 2024, most of his uploads were simple rap covers, shaky lighting, basic setups, and a kid who clearly loved music even if the delivery wasn't perfect. And for a while, almost nobody cared. His comment sections were filled with jokes about his appearance, people mocking his voice, and viewers treating him like a walking punchline. But instead of disappearing like most creators do when the hate gets too loud, Bivo kept posting. In fact, he seemed almost used to it. He talked openly about being bullied in school for years, brushing off the insults like they barely affected him anymore. And that's what made early viewers take notice. Not the content, but the way he handled the negativity. Every time someone tried to tear him down, he'd post another video, acting completely unbothered. That stubbornness earned him his first small wave of traction. A few videos crossed the 1 million view mark. His follower count finally broke into the 4 digits. And suddenly, Bivo realized something important. People weren't watching for the rap cover. They were watching for him, or at least for the version of him they could laugh at. And that became the foundation of everything that went wrong next. But the moment that truly changed the direction of his entire career was still to come. Once Bivo realized attention mattered more than talent on TikTok, his content began to shift. Singing covers wasn't enough anymore. He wanted faster growth, bigger numbers, and most importantly, relevance. That mindset pushed him to experiment with anything that might spark engagement, even if it meant stretching the truth. The first sign of this was when he leaned into sympathy-based content. Bivo launched a GoFundMe, claiming he needed money to fix his teeth, something that, at the time, seemed believable. His dental issues had already been a running joke in his comment, and suddenly, people weren't just laughing anymore, they were donating. The campaign worked, and for Bivo, it proved a dangerous lesson. Emotion converts better than entertainment. So he tried it again. This time, he staged another fundraiser, claiming he'd broken his arm. When that didn't hit as hard, he escalated even further, telling viewers he'd been kicked out of his home and was now homeless. The story spread quickly. Other creators amplified it. Interviews followed. People felt bad for him. Then, the truth came out. Bivo admitted the homelessness story was fake. He'd never been sleeping on the streets. He just needed a storyline that people would react to. When confronted, he shrugged it off, saying TikTok was full of fake stories anyway, so why should he play fair? That excuse didn't just damage his credibility. It quietly changed how people viewed him. He wasn't just a meme anymore. He was someone willing to lie to his own audience if it meant growth. And ironically, that willingness to cross the line is exactly what pushed him into his biggest moment yet, a viral explosion he could never undo. That viral explosion didn't come from another lie or staged sob story. It came from something no one could have predicted, the way Bivo ate food. Out of nowhere, he introduced a recurring segment called Dinner with Bivo. On the surface, it was harmless. Just Bivo sitting down, rating his meals, talking to the camera like thousands of other creators do every day. But viewers quickly noticed something unsettling. He wasn't chewing at all. Every bite was swallowed whole. No pause, no reaction. Just food disappearing straight down his throat. At first, people thought it was a glitch or a one-off moment. Then, it kept happening, clip after clip, meal after meal. Comments flooded in. People were confused, disturbed, and strangely fascinated. Some joked about choking hazards. Others accused him of faking it. But instead of correcting the behavior or explaining himself, Bivo leaned into it. He exaggerated it. He turned it into a gimmick. One video, in particular, sent everything into overdrive. A simple plate of potatoes, a quick rating, and then gulp. The clip exploded across TikTok, racking up tens of millions of views and millions of likes. Reaction videos followed, stitch after stitch. Even mainstream articles were written about his unsafe eating habits. Overnight, Bivo went from a struggling creator with 90,000 followers to a full-blown viral figure with over 1 million. The very thing people mocked him for became the engine behind his success. But viral fame built on shock doesn't last forever, and Bivo knew it. Because once people stopped watching out of curiosity, he'd need something far more extreme to keep their eyes glued to the screen. Once the novelty of his bizarre eating habits began to fade, Bivo could feel the views slipping through his fingers. The comments weren't as active, the stitches weren't as frequent. The algorithm wasn't handing him the same easy wins it did when people were obsessed with his no-chew eating style. And for someone who'd finally tasted real attention, the idea of going quiet again terrified him, so he escalated. Instead of finding a new creative direction, Bivo went straight for shock value, the one strategy he knew always guaranteed reactions. He started staging confrontational street interviews, popping up on random people with a camera, and asking whether TikTok counted as a real job. If someone said no, he'd brag about how he was earning 20 grand a month and call them jealous or lazy. His goal wasn't conversation, it was conflict. He wanted people to argue, get angry, stitch the video, and talk about him. And it worked, but only in the worst way possible. People didn't see confidence. They saw insecurity. They saw someone desperately trying to convince strangers he was successful, even though his content relied entirely on provoking them. Every interaction felt like an attempt to manufacture hate, because hate guaranteed numbers. Behind the scenes, Bivo openly admitted it. He proudly explained that triggering people was the only way to stay relevant, that TikTok didn't reward authenticity, so he wasn't going to bother with it. But for every creator who goes down that path, there's a moment when pushing reactions too far stops being funny and starts becoming self-destructive. And Bivo was about to cross that line more blatantly than ever before. Because when the shock factor stalled again, he turned to something even cheaper and even more desperate. Something that would change his reputation forever. As Bivo leaned harder into chaos, his next move would become one of the strangest and most humiliating chapters of his rise. A transformation that wasn't driven by creativity, but pure desperation. When the hate content started plateauing and the dinner videos weren't pulling numbers anymore, he needed something bigger, something messier, something guaranteed to get people talking. And that's when he embraced the one label he thought could keep him trending, becoming the internet's favorite cuck. It started during his appearance on the Whatever podcast. Sitting next to his then girlfriend, Sophia, Bivo didn't just hint at having an open relationship. He bragged about it. He spoke proudly about letting other men sleep with her, claiming it was the best 3 months of his life. Then he doubled down by calling anyone in a traditional relationship a slave, as if normal people were beneath him for not sharing their partners. To the hosts, it was shocking. To the audience, it was laughable. But to Bivo, it was strategic. He knew the clip would go viral the second he said it. He knew people would clown him, and he knew the internet would tear into him for acting proud of something most viewers found pathetic. But that was the point. Negative attention was still attention, and for Bivo, that was all that mattered anymore. The problem was that this wasn't a bit. It wasn't satire. Behind the scenes, he fully embraced this persona because it generated the one thing he craved: views. And when the backlash started hitting harder than he expected, he tried to walk it all back in a rambling video where he claimed the podcast told him what to say, even though he'd been making the same jokes on his own live streams days earlier. It was the first time people realized something crucial. Bivo wasn't in control of his image anymore. His need for attention was. And right as that persona began spiraling out of control, his personal life would collapse in an even more public and far darker seen way. The fallout from the podcast should have been Bivo's wake-up call, a moment to step back, rethink his image, and rebuild. But instead, he doubled down on controversy, and that decision dragged him into a genuinely toxic spiral that even his audience couldn't joke about anymore. Everything came crashing down when his relationship with Sophia exploded publicly. What started as petty online digs suddenly escalated into a full-blown meltdown that played out on Instagram stories for millions to see. Sophia posted a video of a heated argument between them, Bivo yelling, swearing, insisting he'd done nothing wrong, and sounding less like a creator making content and more like a man losing control of his life. But the argument wasn't even the worst part. Moments later, she posted a message claiming she had thousands of videos of his abusive behavior. Then she dropped the accusation that turned the entire internet silent. She hinted that Bivo had crossed a line no one could defend, something she described happening while she was asleep. For the first time since going viral, people weren't mocking him. They weren't hate-watching. They weren't laughing. They were disgusted. Bivo rushed to defend himself, but instead of a calm denial with evidence, he went into full meltdown mode. He claimed Sophia was addicted to drama, said he had let her get away with so much, and rambled about being broken by the situation. Then he hopped on a live stream and tried to discredit everything by showing random clips of her acting loopy, as if that somehow erased the severity of what she accused him of. He never directly addressed the specifics. He never provided a clear explanation. He never took accountability. And because Bivo framed everything around saving his career, rather than addressing the accusation itself, the damage was permanent. Even fans who defended him for months suddenly couldn't. Other creators refused to touch the situation, and for the first time, people weren't calling him a clown. They were calling him dangerous. This was no longer TikTok drama. This was a creator watching his entire reputation burn and making it worse every time he opened his mouth. But unbelievably, Bivo wasn't done destroying himself, because instead of laying low, he made a decision that would take his desperation to an entirely new level, one that stunned even the people who hated him, and it involved the last person anyone expected. Just when the internet thought Bivo couldn't possibly sink any lower, he did something so unhinged, so jaw-droppingly desperate, that even his harshest critics had to pause and say, there's no way he actually did that. But he did, because in November 2025, Bivo announced something that crossed every line imaginable, morally, socially, and personally. After the breakup scandals, the fake homelessness, the fake GoFundMes, the coin scam, and the meltdown on the Whatever podcast, Bivo decided the next step in his content career was to put his own mother on OnlyFans. Not as a joke, not as a troll, not as clickbait, as a serious business decision. He proudly posted a graphic announcing her new page and defended himself as if he just launched a creative startup. People were horrified. Even the people who despised him were begging him to stop. But Bivo doubled down and insisted this was for her future. He tried to justify it by saying he didn't want his mom to work a normal job anymore, and that putting her online for strangers to pay was some kind of noble act, as if humiliation was a retirement plan, as if his followers were too stupid to see that this was nothing but a cash grab disguised as help. But the situation only became more disturbing when his sister got involved. She confronted him, furious, calling the entire thing disgusting and disowning both him and their mother. Instead of apologizing or just backing down, Bivo went live and bragged that his mom had already made 4 bags in 3 days, laughing like he had outsmarted the world. It was one of the darkest pivots any creator had taken, turning a family member into a marketing tool to extend his relevance for just a little longer, for views, for money, for a few days of clout. This wasn't just bad content. It wasn't a cringe moment. It wasn't a meme. This was a window into how far Bivo was willing to go, now that his fame was slipping through his fingers, exploiting not just his audience, not just his girlfriend, but his own blood. Still, the spiral didn't stop there, because after destroying his own reputation, shattering his relationships, and losing the last remaining goodwill he had left, Bivo made one more move, one that revealed the truth about what really drives him, and why his downfall might not be temporary. And that's where things get even darker. If there was ever a moment where Bivo could have stopped, reflected, and rebuilt his entire image, it was here. After the breakup disaster, the coin scam accusation, and the horrifying decision to involve his own mother in his content, most creators would have taken a long break to get help, regroup, and disappear from the spotlight until they could return with something redeeming. But Bivo didn't do that. Instead, he went even harder in the direction that was destroying him. With TikTok views drying up and sponsorships getting risky, Bivo started flooding his socials with borderline spam, non-stop crypto promos, casino gambling plugs, investment advice, anything that could squeeze a bit of money out of an audience that was already losing interest. It didn't matter if it was reputable. It didn't matter if people lost money. It didn't even matter if the brand was one he had publicly scammed just months before. If it paid him, he posted it. And as his credibility tanked, his desperation became more obvious with every upload. He would rant for minutes about haters, insisting they didn't understand him, calling himself one of the most misunderstood creators on the app. In his mind, nothing was his fault. Not the lies, the scams, the manipulations, the contradictions, or the chaos he kept fueling. According to him, it was all just a character, but the mask kept slipping. The late night rants, the shaky live streams, the unchecked gambling, the constant begging for views, the angry responses to comments. It all painted a picture of someone who wasn't just playing a role, but someone who genuinely couldn't stop chasing attention, no matter the cost. And that's when the cracks started showing in the one thing he valued most: his money. His TikTok revenue plummeted, his view counts collapsed, his engagement dropped, and he admitted publicly that he had moved most of his content to Facebook because TikTok wasn't paying enough anymore. The problem wasn't the apps, it was him. He had burned his audience so many times that even the people who watched, ironically, were starting to leave. That's the final stage of internet downfall, when people stop laughing at you and instead just stop watching altogether. Bivo tried everything to stop that bleeding. New gimmicks, new fake dramas, new stunts, new shock value, new characters, yet none of it stuck. None of it went viral. None of it even sparked outrage. For the first time since he started, no one seemed to care, and that's the moment every clout chaser fears more than anything: the silence. Because when a creator relies on chaos to survive, the moment the chaos stops, so does their career. But Bivo's story isn't just about shock value or controversy. It's about something deeper, something more unsettling, something that reveals the real reason he keeps falling downward instead of climbing back up. And that's exactly what the conclusion uncovers: the truth behind why Bivo may never recover from the path he chose. At the end of the day, Bivo's downfall wasn't caused by one mistake, one scandal, or one viral moment gone wrong. It was the result of a creator who built his entire identity on chaos and then became addicted to it. Every lie, every staged crisis, every shock tactic, every scam, every public meltdown, it all chipped away at the one thing he needed most to survive online: trust. Because here's the truth: most creators eventually learn the hard way. Views can be bought, controversy can be fake, and attention can be forced. But trust, once that's gone, it's gone for good. Bivo chased virality so aggressively that he ended up torching everything in his path: his relationships, his public image, his audience's faith, and even the last remnants of dignity he had left. And the tragic part is, none of it made him happier. None of it made him more respected. None of it made him a better creator. It just made him louder and emptier. He's now stuck in a cycle where every stunt must top the last, every lie must be bigger, and every controversy needs to hit harder. Because without shock value, he has nothing left to offer. That's the curse of creators who rely on outrage for relevance. They don't fall off overnight. They slowly crumble in real time, one desperate upload at a time. Maybe Bivo will eventually wake up and rebuild. Maybe he'll disappear for a while, find stability, and return with something real. Or maybe he'll keep spiraling until he becomes just another cautionary tale in the long list of influencers who mistook clout for purpose. But one thing is certain: the internet forgets fast and forgives slow. When your entire career is built on being the villain, you don't get many chances to become the hero again. This wasn't the rise and fall of a content creator. This was the collapse of someone who never understood that fame wasn't the prize, it was the responsibility. And until Bivo learns that, his time in the spotlight will only get shorter from here. If you made it this far into the video, thank you. Your support means everything. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more deep dives just like this, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment letting me know who you want me to cover next.